No one recognized him, not the prison guards, not the inmates, not even Thuarden, when Ibrahim Traoré disguised himself as an ordinary prisoner and entered. Co-imprisoned, what he would see would shake him to his core. 6 days later, the entire prison system would be turned upside down to the east of Ouagadougou, surrounded by gray concrete walls and barbed wire. Kota prison was the most feared institution in Burkina Faso. Behind those high walls began another world where laws and hope did not exist in a Sunday morning. In the early hours, heavy iron gates of the prison opened. Another prisoner was about to enter. There was nothing unusual about his name. Usadio, 38 years old, arrested for a minor robbery attempt. Nothing out of the ordinary in his document. But there was something the documents didn't say. This man was actually Ibrahim Traoré, transitional leader of Burkina Faso, the most powerful man in the country. "Move forward, hurry up," said the guard at the main gate harshly, without making eye contact. Traoré didn't object. He had several days' stubble on his face. His hair was disheveled, and he wore an old faded shirt and torn pants. Nothing about his body, neither his posture, nor his speech, nor his gaze, indicated that he was actually a head of state. The reason behind his entry into Kota prison was simple. For the past 3 months, reports from the prison were always the same: everything is normal, no problems, conditions are improving. But anonymous leaders arriving at Traoré's desk told a different story. Torture, starvation, missing prisoners, and mysterious deaths there were 2 different realities, and True could see only one way to know which was true: to see with his own eyes. Traoré's first hours were no different from any other newcomer: an old and stained prison uniform, an empty cell block, and the constant shouting off guards. He was assigned to cell block C7, the most feared section of the prison. He sat on the lower part of the bunk. Assigned to him, the sheets on the bed were filthy, with a thin blanket and a pillow as hard as stone. The other inmates in the cell block looked at him suspiciously. Every newcomer was a potential threat. "Hey, new guy," said the large inmate from the opposite bunk, "how did you end up here?" "A store robbery," Traoré said in a calm voice, fixing his eyes on the man's an unsuccessful bribery. He added, smiling slightly, "I didn't even have a gun, I guess. Luck wasn't on your side," said the big man leaning forward. His name was Ori, and was the most influential inmate in cell block C7. He determined what happened in the cell block, who lived and who died. "What about yours?" Traoré asked. "What brought you down here?" Barlod. A bitter and cold laugh. "Little man, I'm not an ordinary prisoner. I've spent the last 15 years here, murder, theft, everything. But my real crime was getting caught. What's life like here in Kota?" Traoré asked. The curiosity in his voice was genuine. Bari lost the smile on his face. "Life, there is no life for others. Only waiting. We're waiting for death. That's all." As evening fell in the darkness of the cell block, a new sound was heard, a moan full of pain and weak. It came from a bunk in the corner. Traoré looked carefully there. A young man, Hohad, wasted away to almost a skeleton, lay with his trembling body. His face was covered in sweat, and his eyes were burning with fever. "What happened to him?" Traoré whispered to the inmate next to him. "Gasper," said an old prisoner sadly. "He was beaten by the guards 2 weeks ago. They never looked at his broken ribs. Now the infection has spread throughout his body." "Doctor, medicine?" Traoré asked the cell block, and Matslod bitterly. "Doctor? There is no doctor here," said the old man. "If you get sick, you either recover or you die. They guards don't care." When morning came, the first shock arrived. Before the cell doors opened, guards entered. They moved toward Gaspar's bunk. The young man was no motionless. "Another one gone," Sadith head guard Balat in an indifferent voice. "Get him out." 2 guards began to drag Gaspar's lifeless body, as if carrying a sack of rice, as if this was a routine procedure that happened every day. A rage swelled inside Traoré, but his face remained expressionless. A prisoner could not react. A prisoner's anger would punished immediately. Head guard Bollet scanned the entire cell block, his eyes stopping when they reached Traoré. "You new guy," he said, "you'll be working in the kitchen today." The prison kitchen was a place as dark and gloomy as the prison itself. Inadequate, rotten food, rusted equipment, and desperate prisoners. Traoré was assigned as a chopper for hours. Hiccuped rotten vegetables. His eyes watched everything, the quantities of food, the preparation conditions, the level of hygiene. He turned to the old prisoner beside him. "These vegetables, Araton," he said quietly. "How do you make food with these?" The old man laughed bitterly. "These aren't for us, son." "Hey," said the prisoner's, "food is in that cauldron in the corner. We only eat girl." When Traoré turned his head, he saw a cook preparing food with better ingredients, said another cauldron. "What is he cooking?" "The guards' food," said the old man. "They eat meat, we eat bones. That eat bread, we eat mold. That's how the order is here." That night, when Traoré turned to the cell block, Barry was waiting for him. "Come, new guy," say Barry, "I have things to tell you." They withdrew to the corner. Barry's eyes were teary. "At the end of the corridor, there's a special room," he said in a whisper. "Prisoners who go in there never return or come back. Us different people." Traoré listened, engraving every word into his mind. "There's a secret economy here. Bakar can't breathe for decent food, bribed for medicine, even bribed to stay alive. You don't have money if you don't have family, God help you." "How long has it been like this?" Chu asked. "Always," said Bakari, "but it's gotten much worse in the last year since Warden Caber took office on the third day." Truest reality, another young prisoner died like Gasper. But this time, that prisoner who died wasn't just ill, he had it after being taken to the special room. "What happened to him?" Traoré whispered to Bakari as the others slept. "Her tour," said Barry, "because his family didn't have money to pay a bribe. Their electric shock devices and more in thought room. Don't you hear the noise?" Traoré nodded. The screams he heard at night were real, but why, he asked. "Why would they do such a thing?" Money said. "Bribery thing is for money. They receive a budget from the ministry for each prisoner, but they give us almost nothing on paper. This prison looks perfect." But in reality, Traoré's stomach turned ways suspected was much worse. On the fourth day, it was. Traoré's turn. Two guards grabbed him and dragged him to the special room. A kick to his stomach took his breath away. "The warden wants to see you, new guy," said one. "I hope you have a good story." The special room exceeded even Traoré's worst nightmare. Walls were covered with blood stains. In the corner were electric shock devices and baton-like tools, and in the center, a heavy iron chair with handcuffs. Where Kababori entered, fat, his uniform impeccable, his eyes merciless. He held Traoré's fake file in his hand. "Musa Diaz, say to Kababori, or whoever you are, we heard you talking to Bakari. You've been asking too many questions. I'm just a prisoner," Traoré said. In a calm voice, "I'm trying to survive, said Kabori, smiling. "We need money to Yaha family friends." "Who could help you?" Traoré remained silent. What Bakari had said was true. This was a racket system. "Look," said Warden Kabor, "let me tell Yaho. It works here. You either pay or Yusufer. Simple." "How much?" Trop asked for Somion. "Like you, let's say 500. Zero Svathis was more than a year's income for an average Burkinab, and, if I don't pay Caber," pointed with his finger to the electric shock devices. "Then the fun begins." "Warden," said Traoré, "I think I have an offer for you." Kabori raised his eyebrows with curiosity. "I'm listening. Before you beat me, I want to show you who I am," said Traoré. "Maybe we can come to an understanding." The warden laughed. "Well, show me. What are you, a lost Prince Askret millionaire?" With a calm movement, pulled out a small plastic object from his pocket, a transmitter given by the Secret Service. He activated it by pressing a simple button. "What are you doing?" asked Cabaret, with surprise. "Calling for help," said Traoré and Bejer. "They're very close." Cabaret's smile faded. "What is this?" he shouted. "Guards, take this away." But when the door opened, it wasn't guards who entered. It was fully equipped special force, armed and masked Traoré's loyal guards. "What's happening?" stammered Cabaret, stumbling backward. "Who are these men?" Traoré slowly stood up. His posture had changed, his back was no straight, and his eyes were those of a commanding leader warden. "Cabaret, I am Ibrahim Traoré," he said in a calm voice, "and you are under arrest." The expression on Cabaret's face changed from surprise to horror. His legs trembled. He would almost fall. "Impossible." He whispered. "Warden Kabori," said Traoré, "I've heard allegations about you and your guards' torture, extortion, mistreatment, even deaths. And now I've seen it with my own eyes." Masked guards restrained Kabori. The man was no longer resisting. He was frozen in shock, but Kabor stammered. "We were just following orders from the ministry, from the government. I am the government now, Sadre, and the only order I gave was justice and dignity for all Burkina Faso." Outside helicopter sounds were heard. The prison was now completely surrounded. "I appointed you as prison minister," said Traoré, "but seeing the hell you created, I will now be your first prisoner along the corridors." Their washhouse guards were dropping their weapons. Sand surrendering. Some tried to escape but failed when the door of cell block C7 opened. The prisoners looked in astonishment. Traoré entered with equipped soldiers beside him. He now looked like a head of state. His posture, voice, and gaze had completely changed. Bakari said, "Try to his former self Mateu." "You really?" Barry's words caught in his throat. "Yes," said Tra. "End of everything. I heard every story. Has Voluno. The time has come. Time for justice." Tro examined every corner of the prison. What he saw deeply shook him. Torture rooms, prisoners on the verge of starvation. Inhumane condition. Had documented the situation of each prisoner, noted the name of each guard, recorded every atrocity. On Saturday, everyone gather in the prison yard. Trao ordered all prisoners, all guards, secret service agent asked with concern, "Sir, will there be punishment?" Execution. Traoré shook his head. "No, there will be justice, and justice is more powerful than vengeance." On Saturday, the morning sun illuminated the prison yard. There were people on two sides. On one side, weak, filthy prisoners; on the other, frightened guards and prison administrators. Traoré stood without uniform, in plain clothes. Beside him were ministers and state officials. To Datra began. "Burkina Faso will make a choice. Will we stand with the oppressor? With the oppressors? Are we not guilty? We just watch injustice." Aspecto Torsive was silent. Some of the guards had bowed their heads. In the eyes of the prisoners there was both hope and fear. Closing Katoka prison from today's Sadre. This structure of shame will be demolished and a rehabilitation center will be established in its place. Warden Cabaret and his accomplices will be fairly tried. Traoré continued, "And Bashard, when I say fair, I don't mean like your justice, I mean real justice." Agard began to cry. Another fell to his knees. "All prisoners will undergo a health check. The sick will be provided. The hungry will be given food and all cases will be reviewed." Barry looked with disbelieving eyes. "Is this real?" he whispered. "Real." Traoré replied. "Beko's Burkina Faso will no longer hide deathy truths. We will face the realities weeks later." The former Coca prison was in Recognizel. Walls had been demolished, had barbed wire removed in its place. An open campus had been established, an education and rehabilitation center for prisoners. The place that was once a special torture room was now a library's old kitchen had become a soup kitchen where healthy meals were cooked. And in the yard, the former inmates Afsal Block C7 had gathered among them. Was Bari, now working as a health officer, present. "Traoré is coming today," he said excitedly. "We must thank him." When Ibrahim Traoré arrived, he was in simple clothes, just like the day he first came. But he was no longer hiding. He was a leader who came from among the people and never forgot his roots. A prison system, said Traoré to the crowd, is a mirror of a nation. Today, when we look in this mirror, we'll see pride instead of shame. As Hess shook hands with the former prisoner, were tears in someone's eyes. This was Gaspard treated now restored toe health, Mr. President, said Gaspard. In a trembling voice, you saved my life, Traoré shook his head. No, Gaspard, he said. We saved each other's lives because a nation is only as strong as its weakest member Bakary, along with other for more prisoners surrounded. Traoré no one applauds their rulers, standing he said, trickling an old proverb, but everyone embraces their brother, and so that day in Burkina Faso's most feared prison and embrace began a leader. Embracing his people, a nation embracing its future. Thekotoka incident was the beginning of a major reform movement in Burkina Faso's prison. System warden Kaber and Haissa complices were fairly tried and punished, but more importantly, Ibrahim Traoré's 6 days in the secret prison gave a message to the entire country: no Burkinab, even can prison will be forgiven. Real power, Traoré said, later in an interview, is protecting the weak. Real leadership is feeling the pain of your people, and real freedom comes when there is justice for all. This story continued to be told not only in Burkina Faso but throughout Africa as the story of a leader's hardships, to understand the pain of his own people and a nation's journey from darkness to fight.